JM, thank you so much for coming on the Transform Your Future podcast. I appreciate you. We've been chatting back and forth, and I'm very excited about this. I want to dive in. I'm going to let you just start off and just take me to your first book. Let's go in. And what was the driving factor? What motivated you to write the book and get the message out?
Yeah, brother. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you, brother. And the first book was I have two sons. My wife and I have two sons. And the entire driving force was I wanted to write a book that if I got hit by a bus and I was no longer on this planet, that I could share some of the learning lessons that I received from my parents, grandparents. I read about 40 books a year, so all the authors, and I wanted to put it in one place. And you know what's funny, Eddie, is for like 3 years, I had it written in my bathroom mirror, my goals, and I'm looking at it, and I hadn't done much with it. And my youngest son came in and he goes, "Dad, how's the book going?" And he absolutely crushed me, brother. In that moment, I was like, because I'll never lie to my kids. And I was like, I have a little bit of chapter one done. He inspired me and destroyed me all in the same moment. I finished the book 6 months after that because I realized my purpose was to really give these kids anything that I had received. And so that was the inspiration, man. And it's just led to what Let's Go Win is now and a couple other books and kind of some fun stuff that we've done along the way.
Yeah, I identify with that because first of all, kids are great. They think in a different way than I think usually. And but the other thing is that family in general, it's very easy for them to trigger embarrassment in me, right? And embarrassment is one of those things that actually spur me into action because I don't like it so much. I'm like, okay, you're calling me out, kid. It's time for me to hit the bricks.
It's so true,
Absolutely.
man. They have that way of pushing you, and I think it's good though, right? They call it out honestly, and that's my youngest boy Trey. He has no other way of speaking but just sheer brutal honesty. Anyway, that's what the first book was all about.
Tell me a little bit about what's in the book now, the contents,
Yeah,
some of the principles and ideas.
yeah, I go, it's 12 chapters, and I start with vulnerability and I end on what transcendence. Now, vulnerability, what's so fascinating about that is I was taught boys don't cry, which, by the way, is terrible advice for any parent. Don't say that. It's just not true. And I reached this level in life where I was like, wait a minute, that's not true. And how is that serving me by stuffing all these emotions down? Then it's like a volcano ready to burst. And I didn't want my kids to go through life that way. I want them to be able to express. So I started with vulnerability because, in my opinion, it's the most important thing that I've learned as a leader in business is to truly just be authentic and vulnerable as me. I end with transcendence because to transcend to me means to overcome any self-limiting beliefs that you have. And the crazy thing, I don't use the word hate often. It's not something that I don't like that word, but I will say it here. I hate self-limiting beliefs, brother. It absolutely, if there's one thing I could just destroy in this world, it would be self-limiting beliefs. And so that's what transcendence or transcend means to me, is to overcome those self-limiting beliefs. And that's ultimately what I wanted my kids to know is you can do anything that you put your mind to. If you believe you can do it, you absolutely can. And then what's interesting, I never planned on publishing the book, but the gal I was working with said, "Man, you're selfish." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "If you don't publish and give this to more people than just two, you're selfish." And I said, "You're right. We did it." And so yeah, man, some of those lessons along the way, we talk about, courage in the book. We talk about simplicity. So it's 12 chapters, and the whole idea was to make it so if you hopped on a flight in New York and you landed in LA, you could finish the book and have a bunch of takeaways as you talked about personal growth. That's really what I want, is that you can read it, use something and apply it and make your life better.
Mm. Yeah. So, talking about self-limiting beliefs, in my experience, and I have overcome self-limiting beliefs, like it has happened to me, right? And so many beliefs that I've had in the past, I no longer have. But that doesn't stop sometimes new things coming in that I get challenged by. For example, I would say in the last year, my biggest challenge was turning 60. And just that number like has bothered me tremendously. And the ideas that I have about, from growing up, what does that mean, that number? What is that supposed to mean in your life? And and I understand, like, society has changed, health has changed, people are living a lot longer. 60 is like the new 40. I get all that. But just like there's some self-limiting beliefs about what I can do, how much I could do, that I've had to really keep challenging myself every day to be like, this is the story is the story, and it's my story, so I could change my story to whatever I want. My story doesn't have to be, this is a time for me to slow down. This could be the story of, this is the time I speed up, because I feel like I'm at the top of my game right now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, this is not a time to slow down when you're at the top of your game. This is a time to go all in, all the way.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's that we put these labels on things. So for you, 60 is a label, right? It's something that somewhere along the line you're like, 60 means I'm old, or 60 means I'm slowing down, or whatever you put on it. I always say labels are not meant for human beings. They're meant for boxes, man. Unless it's supporting you. Of course, if you're like, I'm an athlete and that's a label that supports you, fantastic, use it. But to say I'm 60 and that means something, man, I shed that as fast as humanly possible. And there's three questions. I'm sure you know this, Eddie, but I have people with when they have self-limiting beliefs, I'm like, ask yourself three questions. Why do I believe whatever? Why do I believe 60 is this thing? Is that true? And then lastly, how's that showing up in my life? And ultimately, you're going to find out that somewhere along the way, like you said, it was created back when people at 60 used to be old. That's just not the case, man. People are living to 120. So you're maybe halfway there. Maybe you'll live to 150. But it is so interesting how we like to put labels on things. And it doesn't serve us. So it's so funny. It's just a number, right? And you look great, by the way. So
Thank
at 60, I would have
Well,
never
I'm
guessed,
I'm
brother.
fortunate. I've had an incredible life. I've been taking care of myself really, really well since 2009, 2008. So I mean, there's benefits to that, and I think actually it's not so much the number as it is all the doctors and health related stuff that's been going on in my life, and all this stuff about, well, your body changes and everything changes. You're at 60 years old, blah blah blah, and I just don't want to accept all that. So I'm going
Isn't
to
that
keep
fun?
working on
Yeah.
me.
No, it's just so funny. You're right. This is something that the doctors are saying, well, this is what BS, man. Like that could have been for them. That's not for Eddie. Eddie can be whatever he chooses. I loved what you said. It's my story. Change it. So,
Hmm.
anyway.
Exactly. This is what I tell myself every day. Every time I get those thoughts or ideas, or if somebody else mentions something to me about ageism or declining in your age in some way or shape or form, I, challenge all that. But it's just an interesting little thing. My point was really more just that sometimes you don't just eradicate it completely in your life, because things change, time goes on, maybe some new things happen, and suddenly you realize, hey, I just created some more self-limiting beliefs in myself that I need to work
Mm,
on. It's a never-ending process, right?
no doubt. I mean, look, Henry Ford said it best, I think. Whether you think you can or can't, you're right. So, my wife, sometimes she'll say, we're getting old. And I'm like, I'm not. Because if you tell yourself you're getting old, guess what? You're right. If you tell yourself you're young, and I'm a young soul, man, I'm like, I'm 46 and I feel like I'm 18 and I act like I'm 18. It drives her crazy, but I'm like, I will never tell myself that I'm old. It's never going to happen, brother. It's just, I don't believe that, because the moment I do, guess what? The body will start breaking down. That's how powerful our minds are, man. Whatever we speak into it creates our reality. So anyway, I could talk about this stuff forever because I see it all the time where people put this label on themselves. I'm like, well, is that helping you? If it's not, stop saying it, man. Negativity shows up like 6 to 7 times more profoundly than if we speak positively. So why in the world would you ever think or say something negative? Replace that with something positive and watch your life just it changes.
Hmm. No, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I think that it's just that I go through things and I have ups and downs, but I have the tools, and that's what you need. You need the tools in your life. So, and you need to be able to observe stuff, right? So, part of the reason why I feel young and I act young is because I'm always learning. I'm always growing. Like it never stops. And I have this secret little feeling and an idea, belief that if I stop learning and I stop wanting to grow, like maybe that's when I start declining and going towards death, right? Because green things keep growing, right? And so I want to keep it green. Keep
Oh,
it
it's
green,
true.
baby.
Yeah, but I mean, look, there's two things. We're either growing or what's the other side? We're decaying. So I love
Exactly.
that, man. Keep learning. There's so much to learn. That's what's fascinating. I see all the books behind you. Clearly, you're pouring into yourself. It's just so true, man. If you are not growing, you're going the other way. So keep feeding that, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. So tell me, I know that you did the first book, you released that, and then you wrote another book, The Champion's Playbook, right?
Yeah, Champions Daily Playbook. You know, so a sobering fact that I read is that 90% of people that actually open a book don't get past page 11.
Oh,
And I was like, man, that just hurts your heart after you just poured everything into 180 pages of a book. So I was like, all right, that's okay. If that's true, I'm going to write a book that's literally 11 pages of text. And then the remainder of it would really be how, creating habits. Because again, I'm a simple kid, man. I'm a kid from Montana that I, I want to help people as much as possible, but for somebody to hire me on my hourly rate, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I wanted to create a book that somebody could use just like they're working with me. And the whole idea of the book, Eddie, is any goal that you have in 90 days, if you follow Champions Daily Playbook, you will absolutely hit the goal. There's no question about it. And so that was the whole purpose of it. I wanted people to be able to work with me remotely or never even talk to me and be able to go hit those goals because again, I was blessed with this information from my mentors. They gave me this and I just wanted to put it in printed form so people could go hit and achieve their dreams.
tell me give me one of the examples on the book of how this process works.
It's stuff that it's nothing new. It's setting your intention straight out of the gate. It's the first thing to do. What am I trying to achieve today? So, for instance, I got up and I know I had this show today. I want to show up as the energy I desire to attract. And so my intention is to give 100% of me to Eddie and to his audience. I'm going to give everything I have. That was my intention, right? Because I knew I had the show. I don't normally do podcasts on a Saturday, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to give everything I have today. The second part of it is
That's
just
because I'm an insane person, you know. I work like 80 hours a week and I pack everything in and I use every hour I can to reach all my goals.
no, brother. I loved it. Look, I chose to do the show, so I said, you know
Yes.
what? You're going to wake up. You're going to give everything to the show. So I went through my daily routine and make sure that I showed up with
Yes.
100% of the energy I wanted to. So that starts is you start with your intention. Then write three things that you're grateful for. You cannot be negative and be grateful at the same time. It doesn't exist. So one of the biggest keys that, and people have heard this, but they just for some reason don't apply it. Every day, just say three things you're grateful for, man. Just, I don't care if you're like, I'm grateful for food, air, and my son would say Gatorade or pizza. It's like, all right, cool, man. I'm grateful for that. But when you do that, you just set your day up so well. So that's the start of it. And then, I believe that we have two things that we're in complete control of: our attitude and our activity. And how was yours today? So at the end of the day, you start with setting your intentions, being grateful. Then at the end of the day, you kind of rate yourself on how you did attitude and activity wise. So for you, Eddie, like you said, your activity is extremely high. You're probably giving yourself, fives every single day. Like, I'm crushing it. That's
Hmm.
amazing. And you go back, and the whole point is after 90 days, if you set that goal and every day you woke up with that intention, you wrote the things you were grateful for, you went through and followed all the Champions Daily Playbook, it's like, oh my God, I hit the goal. Yeah, it wasn't that complex. You just needed the habits. And that's ultimately what that book helps, is to create those habits.
Yeah, I think I really identify what you're saying, and I agree that those are some of the vital things. Like maybe you don't have certain skills and you need to improve skills, and maybe you don't know everything you need to know to get somewhere, and you have to like get around some other people and figure it out. But if you can activate yourself every day and set that intention every day and stay in that kind of peak performance mindset, you can't lose.
No, sky's the limit, right? The only people that get in their way is themselves. So this is a way to help people overcome that and go because I started Let's Go Win again for my kids, and the entire purpose is to inspire people to live their best lives. So everything that I've done, whether it's the podcast, the Let's Go In podcast, or it's the books, it's all around that is how can I help people to inspire them to live their best lives? And Champions Daily Playbook is probably the most tangible way for people to do that.
Yeah, that's good. So, anything else you want to tell me about the Champions Playbook?
You know, it's the sad part, Eddie. Here's the hardest part of being a performance coach. I know the stats. If you follow it through, it's not 100%, but it's like 99% people hit their goals. The sad fact is, and I did this with my first 6 clients. I was like, all right, I'm just going to watch. And because they all started about the same time. 2 people hit their goals, 4 didn't. Well, guess what? The 2 people that hit their goals, they actually saw it through. From day 1 to day 90, they did the entire Champions Daily Playbook. They hit their goals. The other 4, they had to start again, and we had to go through all the coaching. So it's so interesting, brother. They weren't more talented, the 2 people. They just had enough discipline to follow through with the game plan. And it's just one of those things as a coach, because you want so badly for everybody to go achieve their dreams. But if they're not willing to put in the work, it's just not going to happen. And so I guess that's the beautiful thing of Champions Daily Playbook. I know what it can do. The sad part is if you don't follow through, it's just another book. It's just a paperweight sitting on your desk. And that's the hardest part of whenever you put that out there. If you don't actually use it, it's not worth much.
Well, you never know, though. I like to be hopeful about things because you never know. I've heard stories about people finding a book, that was abandoned somewhere and has been sitting there collecting dust for 30 years, and they just take it and they read it and it changes their life. So you never know the life of a book and what could happen.
No, you're right about that. In fact, one of the books behind me is it sat on my shelf for 3 years. And the only reason I didn't read it is because I didn't like the cover. It has ended up being one of my favorite books. But it's just so funny. You're absolutely right, man. Again, I have books strewn all through my office. That book, it's The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I looked at it for whatever reason, that yellow cover, I was just like, I didn't like it. It is literally one of my favorite books, and I recommend it to anyone that's listening.
The most famous story I think I've ever heard was, or at least the most impactful one, was a gentleman out in Alaska somewhere found a book in a garbage bag stored, well, not garbage, but just junk stored somewhere, an Alcoholics Anonymous book.
Mm.
And he started reading it and he got sober, right? And the book had been sitting there for, 10, 20 years in this pile of junk.
Big Black Book, man. That thing is a powerful book. Whether you're an alcoholic or not, it's actually a pretty interesting read. But
Yes, it
I had
is.
not heard that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So cool things can happen. Upgrade. It's just interesting. The titles of your book, they like actually make a lot of sense in the progression of things, right? So now we're in the upgrade. So tell me about upgrade.
Brother, this is the lesson that I don't know why it took me so long to realize. For 20 some odd years, I had tried to change people. Guess what? People don't like change. And I finally fell upon, but everyone loves to upgrade. That was the entire basis. It's fascinating when I work with someone. If I try to change them, they absolutely are going to be in resistance because I'm essentially saying there's something wrong with you. However, if I change that word from change to upgrade, I'm no longer judging you. I'm just saying, hey, would you like to upgrade, your health or your finances or your relationship? No one has ever said no. I've never heard somebody that said, no, I don't want to upgrade. And think about it. We have cell phones that we upgrade literally every single year. Well, why aren't we doing the same for ourselves? And the truth is because when you go to change, people don't like it. They literally resist it. And what happened is we moved from California to Florida. My wife's from California. She had been there most of her life. And I was like, look, babe, I wanna upgrade. And the moment I started changing that word from we're going to move or change our location to upgrade, she was like, that sounds pretty good. And it's just amazing, brother, how that word has so much power. So that's the idea of that book is there's nothing wrong with you, but would you consider an upgrade? And all of us can upgrade in some form of our life, just like you're talking about constantly feeding yourself with books or personal development. You're just upgrading yourself. There's nothing wrong with Eddie. Eddie's amazing. But could he upgrade? Of course he can, as we all can. So that's what the third book was all about. And it was a cool experience because it was at a time of my life where I had just lost my dad. I was writing at a really interesting time. And I as I reflect back, it was really something that was extremely therapeutic for me. And it's brought a lot of joy to people that have had the chance to read it.
Yeah, that's great. I think I saved a lot of money on going to see therapists by writing.
Mm.
I think there was a whole kind of psychoanalytical thing that happens for me when I write. Like I learn so much about myself and understand myself better by writing. It's a coping mechanism for me to handle life and situations. So, I really get how you could sit down and write something and it becomes a very therapeutic experience.
It is true. I actually the best form of free therapy is exactly what you said: a pen and paper. It costs virtually nothing. And here's what's amazing about writing: the paper has never said, "JM, you are brilliant," and it's never said, "JM, you're an idiot." It doesn't say anything. It just accepts your thoughts. And what's amazing about our brains, man, they're so complex. They're wildly creative. They're also wildly destructive. And so what you're talking about, I hope everybody hears what Eddie said. When you write, you get it out of your head and now you get clarity. Now you can really see what it is. So I absolutely agree with you, brother. It's one of those life hacks. If you just write, it's amazing what happens. Just put something on paper. You don't have to read it again. No one has to read it, but you get it out of your head and then you get some real clarity in life.
Yeah. Journaling is something that I do every day. And I write on the blog, and I'm working on a book about reinvention and identity that I'm literally fascinated with all my life. And I feel like I'm going to use your term, JM. I keep upgrading myself, right?
Yes.
So, it's very interesting. And I just want to tell you just one experience that I had many years ago when I was scaling my company and kind of converting my company at the time into a software as a service business, so I could build residual value and not have to, I could sell somebody once and then make money over many, many months. At that time, I had a lot of fear. And to do what I was doing, I know I needed funding to do it. That just bootstrapping was enough to get it started and get things up and running so that I could kind of develop it bare bones, but I needed funding. So anyway, I had a lot of fears at this time in my life. And the journaling is what really helped me a lot, because when I would sit down and write, I would say, I'm feeling fear. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that, but then I'm like, okay, but wait a minute. That's not real. Let me try to make that right size, because just being afraid I'm not going to get to the goal. That's like, is it possible I get the goal? Yeah, it's possible. Okay. So then that's not a real fear saying that. So what's the real fear in there? So, and then as I dig down deeper, I'm like, okay, well, the fear is that the plan that I set out and the goal of this plan and going through that, I'm afraid that that's not going to get me the end result. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I spent a month going over this whole thing, making the best decision I can with all the information in front of me, setting out a business plan, having other people look over my business plan and help me for strengths and weaknesses and all that. So, like, what am I afraid of? Like, I did the best thing already. All that it's really happening is that I'm afraid of, really, is I haven't seen the result yet. That's really all that's happening, is I haven't seen the result. And so, like, being able to process that and do that, like, freed me up in, 10 minutes from all this garbage in my head, so I can focus. And then I created this mantra and I put it on the wall. It said, I've already made the decision. I'm just waiting for God's results.
Mm. Brother, that is powerful. You know what's so cool about what you just said is fear stands for what? False evidence appearing real. It's not real. You created this idea. We all do this all the time. And by being able to just write about it, you're like, wait a minute, that's absolute nonsense. I created this. And I love your mantra. I've already created, I'm just waiting for God's results, I think you said. It's so powerful, brother. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't negate the fact that you need, mentors in your life, people that you look up to, that you trust, that you believe has your best interest at heart. I still need that. I've always had that in my life all the time. Um, but still, the little bit of self work that you can do to just clear up the noise, I find really helpful to me. Really helpful. And my mantra at that time, by the way, became, I'm going to have 999,099 cents in the bank by the end of by December 31st this calendar year. And I just kept saying that over and over. Every day I get up and I keep saying that mantra. That is not what happened. What actually happened is 2 weeks before the end of the year, an investor committed $1 million resources to the company. So it kind of happened, but not exactly the way that I pictured it. But I manifested it. So I was quite satisfied.
Of course you did. Look, you created your own reality. It's so funny. People resist mantras, but
Mm-hmm.
you literally did create. Of course, it didn't go the way you planned. It never does, by the way. We
Mm-hmm.
have this thought of this is exactly how it's going to go. Well, guess what? That's perfection, and perfection is a facade.
Mm-hmm.
Perfection is the enemy of greatness. But what you did do is say, I'm going to create this. I love that you did $999,999.99, because if you're into numbers, by the way, my God, nine is the most powerful number in the
Yeah, yeah,
universe.
that's why I picked.
And I'm looking right over here. 999 is release. I'll have to bring it over at some point, but I love what you just did. And I hope everybody listening, go do this. And what's the worst that happens? You don't hit it? Who gives a shit? You at least gave yourself that belief that I'm going to do it. I'm telling you, man, there's so much power in that.
Yeah, when I got clean back in 1988, somebody said to me, "Reach for the stars because you might end up with a big piece of the sky." Right? So I've always believed that ever since then, that, set those stretch goals, dream big, go for the big thing. And if you don't hit exactly what you're talking about, it's okay. You're still going to end up with 10 times more than what you have now, just from intending that and manifesting that and working towards that. And every day, like you were talking about, getting up and setting that intention every day. I'm here, I want to go there. And just that little thing that, my coach tells me, 1% improvement every day, just 1%. That's all we need, is to push it 1%. So yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
Well, clearly, man, you've created it. And
Yeah.
anybody listening, man, you can too. That's the thing, is we're not taught this stuff, right? You're not taught this stuff at school. Your parents probably didn't tell you. Yeah, manifestation, that was a woo-woo term. People are like, "Oh, that's not real." Yes, it is. We are energetic beings. So if you're putting positivity out there, you're going to receive positivity. If you're putting negative out there, guess what? That's exactly what you're going to receive. So it's funny. The 1%. I actually wrote about this because I never understood that, but I understand the idea, right? And James Clear talked about that in Atomic Habit. Get 1% better every day. There's also Kaizen is a Japanese term, which essentially means the same idea, right?
Yeah,
Every
constant
single
improvement.
day, yeah, just constant improvement, and it's just such a powerful tool, man. Whether you're upgrading or getting 1% better, or just trying to get better every single day, guess what? Great things are going to happen. So anyway.
Yeah. And, I have a couple of things that I want to discuss with you to just hear what you think about it. I think sometimes that the distincting the different factors, right? Like you why you get 100% benefit from something, or 50% benefit from something, or 25% benefit from something, I think has a lot to do with whether we're open to be an observer of ourselves and our life, whether we can have a practice of slowing everything down and kind of observing what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm saying, and what's going on in my life, kind of like I'm 10 feet above myself looking down like an independent observer. Like the more that we could just observe what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and kind of, I don't want to, not to analyze it so much, but just to know where we're at and maybe areas we need to shift our perspective in. I think that's what makes the difference between whether you get a 25%, 50%, or 100% improvement in the areas. What do you think about those ideas of, I think a good term to use would be mindfulness, right?
Mm.
Because it seems that we walk around in life mostly mindlessly. We make ourselves this way. We actually train ourselves to be mindless. Like, we want it to be subconscious so we don't have to think about it anymore. But then we get trapped because now we've learned something and we're stuck in that pattern of doing that thing the same way all the time, and we don't think about it. Like I get in the car to go to the mall with my wife, and I start driving towards, this other business that I go to every day, to go to the office every day. And I'm like, wait a minute, because I'm mindlessly, going. And so I think the more mindful we can be about what's really going on, what we're doing, what's happening around us, I think this is what helps improvement. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, you just explained meditation to me, right? Which is something that I practice every day, which, by the way, I had the most powerful meditation of my life this morning. Literally, I mean, I don't know that we have time for me to explain how it went. However, what I will say, what you just discussed for people that are really practical and pragmatic, you've heard work on your business, not in it. That's what you just basically explained. And anybody that's grown a company or sold it, they know exactly what I just said. When you're working in the business, you can't see it clearly, man. You're too emotionally tied. You're doing everything you can. It's so much work. When you step away and you start to work on your business, boom, everything starts to take place. All this amazing things. That's what you're doing by doing exactly what you said, by being mindful, by stepping back and observing. Wait, how am I actually thinking? What am I actually doing? Am I doing everything that's serving me to be the best me? That is working on yourself and not working in yourself, if you will. And it's such a powerful tool, brother, to be able to pull back and say, all right, am I thinking negatively? I am. Okay. How can I change that? It's no judgment. By the way, we have 60,000 thoughts a day come through our mind. Are some of them going to be negative? Yes. But what are the ones that we're actually focusing on? And when you are mindful of that, or you meditate, or you step back for a moment, just observe what you're doing and upgrade. So it's just, I love what you said, man. And it's just one of those powerful tools that so often, like your analogy of driving to the mall and you go to the work, so often that's exactly how we're running through life. We're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of aimlessly, mindlessly going through life through the emotions. Take a moment. How am I doing? Just observe for a second.
The guy in front of me is going very slow, and he's got his left turn signal on, but he's not turning, and I'm behind him. And my first thought is, why is this guy in my way doing this? I should go around him. But then maybe I'm going to say, well, maybe I'm supposed to be back here. Let me just observe what it is back here. What's going on back here? Is there something going on here I should observe? Anything I can learn in this situation, right? What am I learning right now? I mean, there's just different approaches of how we talk about this, but being able to observe and see what's actually happening around us at a certain time, what options might exist, really being open to the universe and what's going on, I find I get much better results than if I'm not. And I think I meditate. I've been meditating for 36 years. I meditate daily. I actually don't do it as a morning or evening ritual anymore. I do it that way, but I also do it all through the day. And I get enormous benefits from it. And I could do a whole show just on meditation, which I probably should, by the way.
Me too, man, because I love it.
Yeah,
It's just such a, again, another life hack. It's so simple.
but I just think that there's been so many crazy studies done about this idea of mindfulness that, for example, this is just one of the crazy things in health, right? So when you go to the doctor and you ask the doctor, you have some issue, you have a wound, or you're recovering from a surgery or whatever, and you ask them, so how long is the recovery process? And they tell you it's going to be about a month. You're going to go through about a month of recovery. And what they found is it's actually recovery can happen based upon your own perceived time, not really at the time that somebody tells you and lays out that this is the common time. So if you perceive that your healing is going to be happening in 5 days, people heal in 5 days instead of a month. Right? And so this is central to this idea of to not just accept everything at face value as what's going on and just mindlessly just keep doing things, that we actually can change the results in our life daily if we just become a little bit more mindful about what's going on and where we're at and the possibilities of what can be done.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are energetic beings. You create your own
Hmm.
reality. I think people are scared of how much power they really have. And what you're talking about, Joe Dispenza is probably one of the big examples where
Yeah.
the doctor's like, "You're never going to walk again." Well, dude heals himself. And there's lots of examples of people saying, "Screw you, doc. I have the ability to absolutely repair myself because I believe in this energy." And that's it is something that I hope everybody at some point can realize how powerful they truly are. You can create whatever reality you want, good or bad, by the way. You get the chance. Like I said, you have complete control of your attitude and your activity. And what we're talking about is really an attitude thing. If you believe you can heal yourself in 5 days, damn right you can. And no one else can tell you. They can tell you you can't, but just don't believe it. Believe in whatever you believe you can do, you'll do it.
So, in your process of goals and goal setting and accomplishing goals, I'm kind of jumping back to the Champions Playbook. So, what does somebody do when they set goals and they don't reach them,
Hmm.
or they set goals that they're having difficulty reaching? They're not reaching it in the expected timeline. Like, 'cause I was writing about this the other day, that I'm doing an article about something, and it's part about mindfulness and also about the brain and how the brain works. And I was just getting into this thing where, sometimes I set goals and I don't reach the goal. Sometimes what that's really about is just that my expectation of how fast I was going to be able to do that, or the timeline that I set, I didn't reach that expectation. And sometimes maybe I just need to change my expectations, really, and not just give up on the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I like that. So I have two thoughts here. The first is just the tangible takeaway. They did a study on New Year's resolutions years ago. You are 60% more likely to hit your goal by simply writing it down. You're an additional 20% or 80% more likely to hit that goal if you put it in a place where you view it twice a day. So I coach people to put your goals in your bathroom mirror. Now, 80% more likely. So if I wake up New Year's Day and I'm like, I want to lose 30 pounds, if I write it down, I'm 60% more likely to lose those 30 pounds than if I just said it out loud. I'm 80% more likely if I just look at it on a daily basis. So that's the tangible, like, all right, man, if you want to hit more goals, there you go. But to your point, if you don't hit your goal, one of the things that we forget is the joy is actually in the journey. Because the truth is, man, look, you can't change the past, and I actually can't change the future. The only thing I can do is the present moment. And so what I talk to people about is, and actually Dan Sullivan wrote about this, the gap and the gain,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
If you're
I've
focused
been
on the
following
gap,
Dan for a long time. Yes, I love his book.
yeah, and it's such a good point that yeah, I think it was him and Ben Hardy wrote that. Well, I think they wrote that one together. But anyway, if you look at the gap, I didn't get there. Guess what? You're going to be super unfulfilled. But if you look at the gain, I started here and I got there. So in the 30-pound example, I didn't hit the 30 pounds, but I lost 20. Well, was that good or bad? It was
Mhm.
great. You did, just because you didn't hit some goal, did you get better along the way? And the answer is absolutely yes. So make sure to enjoy the journey because that's all you have, man. Of course, we want to hit goals. That's how we are as human beings. Failure, by the way, is growth. So if you didn't hit it, give yourself a pat on the back and say, "All right, no problem. Let's go get it again." And it's just that, I mean, it's really the key to achieving anything. You're not going to hit it 100%. Brother, I have missed so many goals. I fail daily. I am one of the greatest failures in the world, man. I get my ass kicked, but here's the deal. I get back every single time. I get back up. Somebody asked me, "Why are you successful?" And success is a very relative term. But to answer the question, I said, I just don't know how to quit. And that's the truth, man. I'm not the most talented, but here's the deal. I won't quit. I will see it through and I'm going to enjoy the journey while I'm doing it.
Yeah, I identify with that. At my core, I have an incredible will to just keep going. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm just one more call, one more day, one more hour, one more month, one more year. I'm just going to keep going, keep going. I'm going to tell myself to just keep going until I can't. And, and when I cannot for some reason, then I have to stop. And then, like if I've had surgeries and then I've been out of commission for a couple of months because of the surgery. And then, I get myself back again. I just will myself back into action. Sometimes I have to do a little bit to get there, but I always do. Something else that you said, I have a lot of experience losing weight, by the way. I lost 150 pounds in a year
Whoa.
and back in 1997. And then later on, I lost another 100 pounds over about 2 years. And one of the things I like to use the weight gain example for this also about mindset and perspective, because I say, if you go on the scale and you may look at it and you might say, well, wow, I didn't lose any weight this week. But then you might look at it and say, but also I didn't gain any weight this week. So like it's am I going to look at the I didn't lose any weight, or am I going to look at I didn't gain any weight? Because both things are happening at the same time. So which one do I want to focus on?
No, man, that's incredible. I mean, that's
Yeah,
a tremendous achievements both times. But you're absolutely right. It all comes down to your perspective. You could beat yourself up about not losing weight, or you could say, you know what, I
exactly.
didn't gain any weight. And here's the other funny thing about the scale, because it lies all the time. I've met people that they are extremely healthy, even if they're a little overweight. And I've met people that are extremely unhealthy that look like Greek gods. So it's one of those interesting things is why are you losing the weight? If it's to feel better, to be healthy, cool, man, do that. But if it's just a vanity thing, I've met a lot of really, really unhealthy people that look like, I mean, they're literally Calvin Klein models, but they're not in good health. And health is wealth, by the way. Without your health, you have nothing.
I agree with that for sure. Well, I think that's a really good point, and it brings me to this other thing that I really like to talk about a lot with everybody. And I would like to hear you expound about that a little bit, and that is beating yourself up. This whole idea of I've had, I mean, at least a good 10 years, maybe even 15 years of my life, I constantly beat myself up. I mean, all the time. And I wanted to be gentle with myself. I wanted to be kind to myself, but it still would be this recurring pattern where I would not meet an expectation, or I didn't meet a goal, or somebody was disappointed in something that didn't work out or whatever. And the first thing I always did was blame myself. Blame. So, I've gotten much, much better with that. And today, today, I mean, the last 10, 12 years, like, I just don't care anymore. Like that judgment part in me, like I just don't even pay attention to it. It's like, I don't care, you know, it's true. Yeah, it's true. It's my fault. So, so what? Like, I don't care. Like, I did what I did. I did made the best choice I can. I did the thing and it didn't work out that way. Oh, well, let's do it again. Let's try again. Let's just keep going. Let's not waste time and energy. But repetitively though, those voices are there and those things are there. And I know a lot of people that I've worked with in the past and currently, like they beat themselves up. They're like get angry at themselves and they feel like their worth is diminished sometimes, because of this. What kind of things what kind of tools do we have to help them?
Yeah, brother. So a couple things. I was like you. I used to have on 13 daily reminders is what and now they're down to 7. And one of them said, "Your inner dialogue is a jerk. Be kind." For years, man, because I was that guy. I would beat the hell out of myself. Then I had kids, and I created a mantra. And this is to your question. You said mantra earlier. It's a powerful tool that we all should really implement. My kids have said the exact same mantra every single day of their life before they go to bed. And it goes like this. I ask them, "Are you a leader?" They say yes. I say, "How come?" They say, "I'm confident, strong, intelligent, athletic, good looking, dynamic, popular, talented, independent boy with a growth mindset." And why that's powerful is the world's going to tell you you're not confident, you're not strong, you're not, all these things. The world's going to tell you that. You need to be the best cheerleader for yourself to let yourself know that I am confident, strong, intelligent, athletic, good looking, dynamic, popular, talented, independent man with growth mindset. Now, in hindsight, would I have made it a lot shorter? Yeah, I should have, right? The 3 things that I'm confident, I'm strong, and I'm beautiful, whatever that is, tell yourself that daily. I also send every single morning to my wife and my kids another mantra that I ask them to say every morning. I'm whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. I don't know where I read that, but it's called the perfect mantra. So I'll say it slowly so people can write it down. I'm whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. If you say these things, you will start to believe it. But you have to do it because your subconscious, we talked about mindlessly driving to the wrong spot. Well, because our subconscious was doing that. We brush our teeth mindlessly. That's what happens with your mantras. If you constantly tell yourself that I'm whole, I'm perfect, I'm strong, I'm powerful, all the things I said, now you start to believe it and you act that way. So that would be the thing I want everybody to walk away with. Tell yourself you're beautiful. Tell yourself you're strong. Tell yourself you're intelligent. All the things that you don't feel you are, just replace it with you absolutely are. And now you'll start to show up that way.
And I think something I know that has been quite useful and helpful in my life, and probably I'm not sure that I could have done all the things I did, build 2 businesses, cash them out, find the woman of my dreams, get out of dysfunctional relationships, lose over 200 pounds, all these things that I've done in my life, reinvent myself into a whole other career and another, person, different interests or whatever. I think my spirituality and my spiritual existence is one of those things that's really helped me to make it through, and that my spirituality is what has helped me to not beat myself up, to be gentle with myself, to know that I am part of the universe and God, and whatever that is to you, it's all just one big thing, that we're all connected, and I could be that, and just get away from this idea that I'm good or I'm bad or I didn't do good enough or I'm not good enough and things like that. I think that's helped me really, especially when difficult things happen. Somebody dies and somebody gets sick and goes in the hospital, and you get sick and you can't walk. I had a crazy thing where I had to use cane and knee braces for extended period of time, and I overcame it by getting stem cell surgeries. The funny things that happened is I was competing with 25-year-olds, and I was walking around with a cane and 2 knee braces, and I outdid all of them every month. And the boss said, "You're going to let this old guy walking around in a cane with braces beat you guys?" What he said, and like that was such a cool comment he said to me. It really filled me up. Um, but the other side was getting the stem cells done, and that totally fixed my issue. And the doctor said to me, did you believe that it would help you?" And I said, "Yes, I really believed it would help me." He goes, "Good, just keep believing that, because that's why it works, right? Like, in other words, just believing is why you get results." So those are just some interesting things that happened with that I just wanted to mention. But yeah, not having some kind of spirituality, some spiritual foundation, some idea of, that there's a force for good in the universe that I can tap into, that I can get personal power from, that's helped me immensely. Yeah.
Yeah, brother, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I was raised Catholic and I never jived with that particular
Mm.
kind of religion. And for me, the word God kind of wasn't a term I used often. And like you said, I don't care, if you're a Buddhist or Taoist or Mormon or Catholic, none of that means anything to me. It did at some point, but it doesn't any longer. My relationship with God is amazing because I am a part of God, just like you are, just like every single one of us is. And you were created perfectly. You absolutely are. We put self-imposing limits on ourselves, and we do all these things in human form. But it is one of those things where if you have faith and you believe, again, I would consider myself a Buddhist if you wanted to put something on me, but I am a spiritual being. And it's funny, man, because we just got back from Europe and we went to the Vatican. And it was such an interesting experience, brother, because it's such a holy place for Catholics. I mean, it's their Mecca, right? And I had such an interesting feel in there. I didn't feel one way or the other because of a building, but because it was known as this sanctity, this place of worship. It was really interesting to have this close connection to universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it. And it's just powerful, man. At the end of the day, to have that relationship is so much power for you. And again, I don't care what you believe in, just have faith that there's something greater than you, because there certainly is.
Hmm. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast, because we haven't mentioned that, and I know that that's something that you do, the Let's Go Win podcast.
Yeah, brother. It's my favorite thing that I do. And again, I every single week when I get a chance to do what we're doing, I get filled up. So it's become this selfish endeavor. And I've interviewed athletes and executives and, buddy in between on a daily basis, man. When I get the chance to do it, it just fills my bucket because I think it's the greatest forum that we have. And here's my example that I'll give. My best friend of over 30 years. I know everything about this man. There's nothing I didn't know. Yeah, right. I did a podcast with him. Brother, I learned so much about him because we got deeper than just surface level questions. How's the family? Good. How's work going? Good. How's fishing? Good. We got deep into his hopes, his dreams, his fears. And so I truly, I feel so blessed to have found podcasts. It's truly a passion and a love of mine. And I'm just so grateful to be on your show and to have the Let's Go Win podcast. And it's just an amazing tool and you get inspired. So if anybody's listening, if you haven't heard the Let's Go Win podcast, go listen. You'll get a ton from it. Keep listening to Eddie's show. He's crushing it, but just keep feeding your soul. And so it's a cool platform, man. I love it.
I agree. I agree. I think it's a great way to constantly be learning and growing and changing and, being observant. And for goodness sakes, I don't think there's anything that a person could be interested in that is not covered in podcasts. I mean, there's podcasts about everything. I mean, I think if you wanted to learn more about doing needlepoint, there's got to be a needlepoint podcast.
It was actually just, I think it was just this last week. I had a guy on, and Adam Torres is his name. He is a big podcaster. He's been doing it for years. I think he has like 6,000 episodes. The guy is an absolute machine. He said podcasting is in year two of what YouTube was. So there's over 3 million podcasts today. He goes, no question there will be 150 million podcasts in the next decade. He said, if you even consider being on doing a podcast, do it. Don't wait. And I thought, man, this is a guy on the inside track. I, I'm just, again, I feel so fortunate to have found this forum, but to actually to see it grow the way that he's talking about it growing, just it's a cool space. And like you said, there's an interest, any interest out there, there's a podcast for it. So
Is your show weekly? Is it a
it
one episode
is.
a week? Uh-huh.
Well, it's actually about 2 episodes a week. I kind of changed it. It had iterations through the years, but now I do the one guest show, and then I do a deep dive either
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
that particular guest, what kind of the takeaways, or maybe it's just a subject. Like I just did one on our family and just some of the dynamics about the family. So it's twice a week typically that the podcast publishes.
Yeah, I've been doing once a week, and I'm really looking to do more because in the crazy person I am that has to operate always on a high level and do more. In 1 month, did 40 interviews, so I have 40 shows in my pocket, and releasing them once a week is going to be a long journey. So I'm thinking about doing 2 a week, maybe 3 a week, but that changes everything for me. And so I haven't done it yet because that means I have to change the production, I have to change the workflow and all that. And I have it fit in my life in such a way already. And like that means I'm going to have to change some other areas. So I'm a little bit reticent, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I think one of the other things is I really like the way that you do it, actually, as an example, to be able to do interview, but then do kind of a deep dive on some of that, solo and kind of break it down to be a little bit more intensive, kind of like an intensive workshop, right? I
Yeah,
like
what's
that.
interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. Cut me off all day.
What's interesting about what you said is Adam actually had 70 in his queue at one point, and he said he was like, "Gosh, how this is going to take forever," because he kept doing interview after interview, and he decided to put them all out at the same time. Now, you would think your viewership would go down, right? Because you put so much out there. He goes, JM, the crazy part was our downloads went up with every single episode. I'm not suggesting you do that because, like you said, you got your workflow and all these things. But coming from a guy that literally is crushing it in the space, I was like, that is wild. Can you imagine publishing all 40 at one time? So anyway, it's pretty interesting.
I could see the benefits of that, but I'm not going to be able to consistently do 40 a month.
Right.
so I wonder about that. Like certainly, and I've actually thought these things like you're talking about, like what's the difference, right? So if you release 1,000 episodes at one time, or 100 episodes, or 50, whatever, and then you didn't do it for a few months, what would that mean? I think that there's something to say about the consistency of doing it all the time. That's kind of important.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. The consistency is key to your growth, just like in anything, right? Consistency is key to what we talked about with weight loss, what we
Yeah,
talked about with building businesses.
yeah.
It
But
is
but but
key
but
to
I
everything.
but I think you're right. I think probably dropping 3 or 4 or 5, and just doing that consistently, I could probably keep up with. Yeah, it's interesting though. I meet a lot of interesting people. I talk to a lot of people. I have a very diverse kind of interest in different things. So sometimes I have interviews and I think, I don't know, is people going to think I'm crazy because I'm interviewing this person because it's like out there a little bit? But I don't know. I like that out there type of stuff, remote viewing and scalar energy and frequencies and all this stuff. I find it interesting.
I mean, look, the world is an interesting place, and again, how boring is it to do the same thing over and over and over?
Hmm.
Some of my, I'll tell you what, somebody asked me the other day, the most memorable podcast you've ever done, and it's a dentist. This guy was absolutely freaking fascinating because, again, he's a dentist. That's one label. He's a human being with lots of interests, lots of things that he's doing. And so I love it, man. People have everyone on planet Earth has something to offer. So why not listen to as much as you can? I mean, I love some of the ones I've done on ayahuasca and some of the ones that
Mm.
we did on religion and some of the ones that we did on, business. It's all interesting to me.
Hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm having an edit. Is there anything that you want to say before we wrap it up?
You know, this whenever I get that question, the one thing that I want people to really hear is you are perfect just the way you are. You really are. And in your authenticity. So, one of the things I do talk about in the first book is taking off the mask. We put on these masks through life, right? We put them on to fit in, to be liked, and we all do it. I think it starts about 5th, 6th, 7th grade. But masks are meant for parties, man. They are not meant for real life. And the biggest thing I hope people can do is take that stuff off and really just show up in your authentic way. It's powerful and it's so much easier. Just think of how heavy it is to carry these masks around and how much more you can accomplish if you just take it off. So I guess that's what I'd finish with, brother. It's a lesson that it took me a long time to figure out, right? Just like anyone else, I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be liked and all that. Well, guess what? People are going to like you in your authenticity. They don't want to. They don't buy the fakeness. So that's what I guess I would leave with, brother. And I will also say thank you. This has been so much fun. You filled my Saturday up 100%. I'm feeling so blessed and just honored to be here. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you too, for sure. I'll be in touch. So I will stop the recording.